Hello and welcome to World Talks here on TVP World. I'm your host Benjamin Lee, and please join me and my guest on this next interview. The summit between Donald Trump and Xi Jinping has put the economic relationship between the world's two largest economies back in focus. Trump spoke of wanting China to open up its economy so major American companies can operate with fewer barriers, while Beijing sought stability and investment. Joining us today on TVP World to assess what was at stake and what may come next is Pyotr Kurzin, the founder and host of the Global Gambit, a geopolitical analyst with experience at the United Nations, World Bank, and International Crisis Group. Hello, sir, and welcome to TVP World.
Nice to be with you, Benjamin.
So let's take a look at this meeting and when Donald Trump says that he wants China to, quote, open up. What concrete change is Washington looking for from Beijing?
Well, I would say that I'll premise my answer by saying that this meeting is more about strategic reconnaissance, as I've called it. We can say that it's sort of a reset, or there's an attempt to muster up improved relations between the two. But this is more about either side trying to get a sense of how they see each other in the global state of things, of which, of course, they're driving. But I think when it comes to the economy, the United States is pretty hawkish. Trump has been very clear in his criticisms of Xi in the past, although in the past 24 hours he's been incredibly flattering, flowering China. He told people in 2016 that China should be allowed to rape the US, and now he's saying that he thinks it's a cherished opportunity and very much one of the best leaders. You know, you're a great leader, I say it to everybody, as he said. So I think that there's a lot of hope that the personal relationship between these guys can open up the economy. The Americans rely obviously on a lot of critical minerals. The Chinese have a lot of role to play in emerging markets, AI especially, robotics, EVs. These are all areas that China has, in many economists' views, comparative advantage. So they're going to be looking to try to nail them down on some of those areas.
All right, so going to what you just mentioned earlier, this meeting does look like a recon mission as well to kind of feel out what are the cards each side are playing. Do you think that by bringing these heavyweights like the CEO of Apple, BlackRock, NVIDIA, we have Musk on board as well, is in a way the Washington administration, Trump's administration, kind of flexing its economic might?
Well, this is a state visit. There's been some unfair and false misrepresentations, deliberate ones by people on Twitter and other social media platforms, trying to say that look at this compared to Obama and how he was received. But firstly, Xi didn't meet Trump at his landing, which is a bit of a snub. Clearly, there's a power dynamic here still, regardless of what's being said, both sides by who they bring with them, but also when they don't appear or when they don't say things in international relations and geopolitics. The optics are crucial. It's as much of what you say as what you don't say. I wasn't actually aware of just how many dignitaries, tech individuals, industry leaders Trump had brought. But when I saw the full photo, that's a big delegation and a very committed one, which demonstrates to me clearly the US is not leaving any stone unturned. This is a full commitment. The Chinese are putting on lavish shows, but the Americans are there clearly with an intention to break down the tariffs, break down the trade barriers, and try to find some kind of convenient, mutually beneficial pathway forward, although, of course, it remains to be seen whether that will happen.
Right. There are some complications here how these two countries are geopolitical competitors while trying to kind of make deals with each other. What concessions do you think Xi can realistically offer without undermining China's state-led economic model and their own industrial strategy?
Well, let's be clear that both sides are grappling with their own respective challenges. Xi has serious economic ones, from rising unemployment, uneven growth, this real estate permit crisis, and sky-high levels of local government debt. There's a lot of imbalance within the country. I'm not one of those people who's going to say China is about to imminently collapse, because it's obviously absurd. We've been saying that for 25 years at this point, but it's not hunky-dory. But of course, it's not hunky-dory for Donald Trump either. His poll ratings are absolutely terrible. They continue to plunge because of the war with Iran. And so that's one of the areas that China has relative leverage, you could say, because both countries need each other to resolve the Middle East in some way. Iran's not going to come to the table long term without China's pushing, but America's not going to do anything to resolve the situation unless there's an improvement in dynamics there with China as well. So you have to understand Beijing and Tehran have a relationship dating back decades. China is Iran's biggest trading partner. So I think one of the biggest leverage points won't even be economic. It will be the geostrategic, the geopolitical dynamics here.
Right, it's actually very interesting with the Iran aspect as well, that being part of the discussion. And my question is going into this, do you think the situation in the Middle East give the Washington administration more leverage, seeing that most of China's oil supply do come from the Middle East? Or is it the other way around, where because of China's relation with Iran and the possibility of resolving things there, that would give Xi a hands up?
Yeah, I would also just add one last point to the previous question, which is China also has a desire to have Taiwan to see concessions or some kind of clarification, but maybe we'll come to that. As for your this question, again, I think it depends. Each one has a little bit of room to maneuver. The US obviously does control the Strait of Hormuz in terms of the double blockade or whatever. Iran has the capacity to control things, but they're not immune from the Americans' military might and ability to relaunch the war if they so wish. And that's a problem with China. China has about 4 to 6 months worth of reserves, which means it can probably go through the summer and be relatively okay, but it's not immune from the challenges. As you rightly pointed out, so much of China's dependency on Iranian oil, or just more broadly the Gulf and the energy supplies through there, are critical. Helium. Other aspects, other commodities that are not as focused on compared to oil are coming through there as well, and China requires those. But so does America. So this is a tit-for-tat kind of situation. Ultimately, though, I think most people agree Trump wants an off-ramp from this war. He didn't appreciate how much of a quagmire it would become and what the Iranians are capable of doing. So I think still, relatively speaking, the longer this goes on, China benefits more, albeit they still have a time horizon to keep in mind in terms of urgency.
All right. Well, thank you so much for unpacking all of this for us. Really appreciate it. And thanks for being with us on TVP World.
No worries. Thanks a lot.
Cheers. And thank you for tuning into this edition of World Talks. But for more news, update, and commentary, please stay tuned to TVP World.